So my name is Grzegorz Komińcz, also known as MaNa. I've been playing StarCraft for over 20 years, including Brood War times, and StarCraft 2 since the very beginning, so since 2010.
Okay, so yeah, you're a Brood War player. How did you get into Brood War?
How did I get into Brood War? That's old story. Back in the day, my father bought a newspaper that had a demo version of StarCraft back in the day. And I just liked it. It was just StarCraft, not Brood War yet. And then turned out that one of my cousins who lived nearby had the expansion, which was the Brood War later on. And yeah, like he basically introduced us to Brood War that way. And I don't know, it just felt, it was fun to play. I played always with my brother, and then sometimes we specifically made LAN between our PCs, between us and my cousin, just to play Brood War together. So yeah, it was just the beginning of the story.
And when did you get into the esports side of it?
How did I get in? When did I get into the esports side? Once upon a time, one of my brother's friends brought a CD that had recorded Brood War matches from Pro League. I don't remember who that was. Probably like some Slayer's Boxer or Nada or whatever, the very early days of Brood War. Yeah, we didn't even have internet back then, and I just liked it. I liked because we were playing a lot of Brood War back then, and just to see, like, we didn't understand if this is like very good level of play, like we had no idea what's going on anyway, but it was just fun to see the professional side of things. And then the moment that we got internet in our household, that's when we started playing StarCraft, and that's when we remembered about the esports side of things from South Korea. We just kept playing, kept getting better. We were looking for the competition that is nearby city or in our city or whatever, and then we just kept getting better and kept getting better and bigger when it comes to esports.
Did you find any players that you wanted to emulate in Brood War?
I was definitely looking for inspiration in Brood War. One of the players was now Ra, or later on Stork and Bisu, obviously, as I understood the game better. I just enjoyed how many units they were able to produce and how little I was able to produce. I was always looking forward to their macro. Even though right now I'm not even known as a macro player, I just enjoyed the macro aspects of Brood War, how better the players were than I could ever imagine them.
Do you remember when you first kind of got the idea of Korean Brood War esports, like how big it was?
I never really understood the magnitude of it. No, I never understood how big the Korean esports is. Other than getting the potential VODs on the CD or whatever, I never really understood it. No, I just knew they're big. I knew they're like TV channels, but I think at that time, I just didn't know how really big it is. I knew it had some potential to like create tournaments, but I actually didn't understand the full popularity of it. Especially since outside of Korea back then, we had only one tournament at a time, or in a year, I should say, and that was WCG, World Cyber Games. And if you didn't qualify for that, it was over basically for you. So yeah, I just didn't know how many different tournaments like Korea had and how big of a prize pool it possibly could be.
Did you start to interact with the international community in Brood War?
I actually don't remember that. I knew I was part of like the international community from time to time, just hanging out on the chat channels. That's what it was really about, like OPTOT, I was also chilling a lot on the US West server with the Koreans. Just the higher level of play, but that was just later when I was already like getting good at the game. When it comes to like forums like teamliquid.net, I actually haven't visited that for a while. The only community that I was really interacting with was the Polish community networks.pl, which is still active to this day, and greetings to them if they're still watching. So yeah, I wasn't really like participating in forums or anything. I was just like chilling on the chat channels, playing the games, and then talking with people directly on Battle.net.
It seemed like Poland had a surprising aptitude for Brood War that then transferred to StarCraft 2, but we'll get into that. Do you agree with that assessment? Obviously it never compares to Korea, but still, Poland seemed to have a very strong affiliation with StarCraft.
Yeah, I don't know why that is, but yeah, Polish players, especially in Brood War, were very good. I think when it comes to like the ranking of the nations. I think like, obviously South Korea was number 1, probably China was number 2, and I would say Poland would be number 3. We would win a lot of nation wars, which were very popular then, and just to be part of Team Poland, Poland was actually so good that we had 2 different teams, Pole A and Pole B. And first I got to Pole B, and then of course I was good enough to be in Pole A, which is the main team. The way that you actually got to the nations teams was like you would challenge the pole team member, and you would play, I think it was either 2 best of 3s or 1 best of 3, and you would just take his spot. So it was a very cool system that you would challenge the player. I was so happy to get into the pole team because I knew how like I felt it was very prestigious.
And when did you get into the top tier team?
I actually don't remember the story how I got into the Pole A. I think I was just playing more. I think that was also around the time where like PG Tour or IC Cup was also introduced. That's when you got to play even with the Koreans at the same server, because on when you would hang out on the European server, nobody like played ladder. You would have to search for your own people to play the games with, to custom games with. So when like ladder was introduced, it was easier to find and like improve on your level of play. So yeah, I don't really remember how I really like jumped from one to another, but I know it happened eventually.
Good old IC Cup.
PG Tour was first. PG Tour was first, and then I think there was like a period where PG Tour had to close, and I don't remember exactly, but I think the StarCraft was like ladderless for a little while because the PG Tour had to close for some reasons. And I remember, I think gosugamers.net, a site like that, even made like a countdown that a ladder is coming, and everybody was expecting that something like PG Tour or IC Cup would come, but nobody knew what IC Cup was then. So something like that would happen. And when the countdown went up, it was indeed a ladder situation, like a ladder site. Everybody was super excited about it, but it was such a flop. It was terrible. I think the ladder was called Carrier. gosugamers.net/carrier or whatever. It was absolutely terrible, nothing worked, and people were very unhappy. And then like later on, I don't know, months or a year later, IC Cup was introduced. So there was a period where we actually didn't have a proper server to hang out in, and I remember it was just such a flop. But like, they were trying to hype it up so much, but it was terrible.
Wow, I had no idea. So StarCraft 2 got announced, I believe, with the Hell It's About Time trailer in 2007. Do you remember that?
I remember the announcement of the trailer. I remember visiting netwars.pl at that time, and the first news was the trailer for StarCraft 2. And I was like, what the hell? Because nobody knew about the possible development of StarCraft 2. I was still trying to improve in StarCraft 1, so it was a big news for me.
What did you think, you know, when you were imagining StarCraft 2 as a StarCraft 1?
I actually didn't think anything. I wasn't expecting anything. I wasn't thinking about a potential career in StarCraft 2 or whatever. I was just happy to see a sequel to the game that I love, that I can continue playing.
Nice, nice. And then the beta eventually came out. Were you a part of the beta?
Oh yes, I was part of the beta. Since the very start, I remember getting the email to be part of the StarCraft 2 beta, because back then I was one of the best non-Korean players in StarCraft Brood War, but I wasn't like a very, very, very top guy. Like I was maybe, I don't know, top 8, top 10, something like that. And I had no career in me, so I was happy to be like acknowledged I got the access to the beta, so that was very happy for me. It was also the time when WCG 2010 was happening, and I was playing both Brood War and StarCraft 2 beta at the same time, obviously with the main focus on beta StarCraft 2. And I remember playing the Polish finals in 2010 Brood War, and I remember just playing better in Brood War, despite playing just less of the game, just because how the amount of practice and work I put in StarCraft 2, I was just playing better in Brood War, doing more harassment, because in StarCraft 2 we had like war prisms or whatever. I was doing like shuttle drops with high tempers, which I'd never done before. I was just learned the new tactics from StarCraft 2 into StarCraft 1. And I remember, there's a funny story about 2010 WCG Polish finals, because I got to the grand finals of the tournament from the loser bracket, and the grand finals was a best of 5. But what I wasn't aware of is that the winner bracket player starts off with a 1-0 advantage. I just didn't know that. So what is in my head is that I am 2-2, and we're about to jump into the last game. But what really happened, we played a last game already and I lost it, because it was a 1-0 advantage to the player. And I remember playing the last game, I was actually ahead. I was just being a bit careless because, I don't know, I was just being careless because I know potentially I have one more game to play. And we finished the game, and it's like, okay, you host next game? And he's like, it's over. I'm like, what do you mean it's over? Well, I started with the 1-0 advantage. I'm like, oh my goodness. It was my only chance to win the very first WCG in Poland. I was feeling very good, very confident, but just because I didn't understand the rules, I lost the entire final.
Heartbreaking.
It was heartbreaking for me, but it turned out well. Like I wasn't too upset about it. Of course, I would love to win, but yeah, it was a difficult situation for me.
So you mentioned that you were like, maybe top 10. Can you name some of the other big non-Korean Brood War players at that time?
At that time, Hydra, Noni was very popular. Mondragon was very good. You could say Draco as well, but at the time that I was at the top, he was already kind of like retired. Yeah, I don't really remember that many nicknames anymore. It's been such a long time ago, but yeah, that's the only few names I remember now.
Well, noteworthy, you didn't mention some of the American names.
Well, I said Noni.
Oh, you're sorry, you did say
He's
Noni.
American.
My bad, but I was kind of alluding to...
Hydra? I said Hydra?
You're right. I meant that you didn't mention Artosis, Tasteless, In Control,
Yeah,
or Day 9.
at that time, no, they were not at the top. No.
Right,
When
yeah.
I was starting the game, like StarCraft, I knew about them. I knew they were very good. But when I was at the top, they were already just lower or not participating in pro level tournaments. Or maybe at least I was not aware at that time.
Yeah, well, I think there was a really big misconception that they were some of the best foreign players for the community at 2010, because I remember I had that misconception.
Maybe, yeah, I mean, well, it's a bit different. I think because we didn't really have like a global community there. I think it was kind of split to Europe, to NA. Maybe, I think they were one of the best in NA for sure. I remember playing with Artosis on like ladder qualifiers or whatever, I remember. He was always getting so mad at me because I used tactics which are not supposed to work, but they work. He was always like, I love Dan right now, but his Brood War approach back then was unacceptable for me. I was just having fun with the game, and he was like, super serious and yeah, just whining about the strategies that I was using. I'm not sure if it was right or not. I was just playing the game. Back then, I didn't really understood the concept of like a proper build order. I just knew that, okay, this works for me. I do this, and then after that, maybe I can win or something. I was just playing the game, and yeah, he was always like a build order, a notebook kind of player.
Yeah, right. Him and Idra actually had some pretty close ideologies, I think, about...
Yes, yeah, very much so. Yeah, Idra and Artosis were very similar. Idra was just better at the game though. But I also think, well, I wanted to say that I think Hydra got mad easier, but I think both Artosis and Hydra got mad very, very quickly. You could trigger them very easily. I remember playing versus Hydra as well a couple of times in Brood War when he was in Korea practicing, I think, with Astro, which was like a pro team back then. And it was just a best of one series. I think we played on either Lost Temple or like a reverse Lost Temple. I don't remember if it was even StarCraft 1. But I remember we spawned very close to each other, and I just beat him with one base river drop. He was so mad because it's not supposed to work, but of course it worked. So yeah, I was happy doing that best of one.
That's the Idra saying, the Idra mantra. It's not supposed to
work.
It's
not supposed to work.
But that's why it works. All right, so when StarCraft 2 was actually, when you started playing StarCraft 2, I should say, in the beta, how did that feel? So different from Brood War.
So different, much different. At first, I even couldn't like recognize the units. Like, how come this like the units movement is so smooth compared to Brood War? Right? We can select more than 12 units. Yeah, like it felt so much different, but good. It just felt good. I was also at that time just improving at the game quite quickly, grasping the game quite quickly. It was fun. I think that's the easiest way to describe it. It was just fun to try something new, that everybody is new and try to figure it out. You know, getting one base, 4-gate proxy. Actually, one of my very first games of StarCraft Brood War Beta was on Desert Oasis PvP. The guy immediately proxied gateways in my main base. I don't remember if I won or lost, but I just remember one of the very first games like that.
So it sounds like you were potentially a player that didn't really care about some of the controversies, but did you have any opinions on, the multi-building selection?
Not at all. No, I had no issues whatsoever. I just played the game. I didn't care about it. One of the things that I disliked, that I would slap myself now for disliking that, is when you like click a command center or a ghost, you could see the amount of energy that this unit had. In Brood War, you couldn't have it. Like, does this High Templar have a storm ready? You don't know. But in StarCraft 2, you can click on a unit and check the energy count. I didn't like that immediately. I don't even remember why, but right now I love this ability.
Change is hard. So do you remember some of those early beta tournaments? Did you participate in any or watch them?
We played, I think every week, at least there was one, which like right now we have like ESL Opens. Back then it was Zota Cup. And in the early days of I don't remember if it was beta or just after the release as well, but sometimes there were like 2 tournaments at the same time, like Go for SC2 and Zota Cup at the same time. Actually, one of the first victory that I had in the Open Cups was Zota Cup, I believe number 6 or 7, I don't remember exactly. But in the Grand Finals, I was playing versus the owner of Team Liquid, Nazgul, and in the Grand Finals I beat him 3-2, so that was my very first victory in StarCraft 2 tournament. That was very cool. And yeah, I mean, I participated in everything that was available back then. They even have like, I don't remember the names of these tournaments, but there were just so many small online tournaments that I always participated in.
And was it just invigorating having such a brand new game? I mean, was that an appeal to you because Brood War had been kind of figured out?
I wouldn't say Brood War was like figured out. I was still at that level. I thought that I cannot get better at Brood War, but now, 14 years later, I know how bad I was right now, back then, I should say. So I didn't say like it was boring for me to play Brood War. It was just something new. I liked it. I never considered Brood War to be solved for me. I know that I could always be better, but finally an actual esports scene was developing. You had more tournaments than just 1 or maybe 2 per year, like it was in Brood War. So it was appealing to possibly get some income out of it. I never considered it my job or anything like that. Back then it was just too early for me, but it was nice to see a potential that there could be some money coming in from this.
And kind of on that topic, what did you think about the amount of foreigners who were kind of good at StarCraft 2 when it first released?
Actually, yeah. Actually, in the very first years of Wings of Liberty, the Koreans were not that great. That's true. And yeah, in Brood War, the Korea was always the #1. Like even taking a map of a Korean, doesn't matter how good or bad he was, it was already an achievement. So yeah, in StarCraft 2, it took the Koreans a bit of time to actually get good at it because they were so focused on Brood War. I don't necessarily have a direct opinion about it. It's just an interesting observation for sure to see that the Koreans didn't immediately dominate the game because it was just so much different than Brood War, so much less mechanically needing than Brood War. Like, the more unit selection and unit production and so on. I think maybe because StarCraft 2 was technically easier at the beginning, it was easy to be good at it quicker than in Brood War.
Was there a feeling that was the new normal, or did you expect the Koreans to eventually dominate?
I was definitely expecting the Koreans to dominate eventually. I knew how good they are, how much they practice, how seriously they take the practice, because I think back then the esports scene, it was developing, but in Korea it was already way more ahead than it was in Europe in the 2010s, 2012s. So I knew eventually it's going to happen. I was hoping that the European esports scene is going to thrive as much as it was thriving in Korea, and I think eventually it did, which is a great thing. I just knew that the Koreans just take it so seriously that they would eventually just overpower the non-Koreans.
And so there was a couple of good foreigner players who participated in GSL. Do you remember Jinro, and can you talk about him and his run?
I remember Jinro. Sad thing is that I actually never followed his story that much in GSL. I don't remember why. Maybe it was the airtime of GSL was like not good for me. I don't remember. I just know that he had like 2 semifinals in GSLs. I know a lot of people remember his story, and he was like one of the best foreigners at that time. Unfortunately, even though I was actively participating in StarCraft 2 and StarCraft 2 scene, I'm not that familiar with his story and how the games went.
Okay. How about Huck and his journey in GSL?
Same. Same, to be honest. No, he like qualified through up and downs to GSL Code S, something like that. But he didn't have much more success than that. No, I think it was only Jinro that really had, and Naniwa later on had a much bigger success. I think in GSL. I don't remember. To be honest, I don't remember anything about Huck when it comes to GSL. Sorry.
No, it's all good. Because, of course, a lot more people do remember him for a lot of the EGTL controversy. And
yeah, outside of Korea, of course, right. I remember him winning the DreamHack Summer, then going back to Home Story Cup and winning that as well. Like he was a good player for sure.
Can you kind of, I guess, explain what made Huck so good at that time?
I think I actually don't know that much. I think he had just a good approach to the game. It felt like he never got bothered or like annoyed about what your opponents did. He had his own approach to the game. And if I remember correctly, he was kind of like a very timing attack oriented. I mean, at that time, everybody was like doing like timing attacks. It was just a question how well you can execute it. And he had just good build orders and good reads on his opponents. I'm not sure what else I could really add to that.
Did you look up to any Protoss at that time? Try to emulate?
In StarCraft 2, no. I was always trying to be the one that people look up into. I never tried to copy anybody. I always wanted to have my own style and let people like lead the people to try to learn from me. And I think I did a decent job of that. Well, I was never a perfect player, but at least in the early days of StarCraft 2, I can clearly say that I was never trying to copy anybody.
You remember some of the early days of Protoss? I think very initially there was multiple gateway openers, and then there was the Forge Fast Expand. So do you remember the progression there?
Forge Fast Expand was only in PvZ, if I remember correctly. That's because we started with less workers than we do in Legacy of the Void. Fun story with Forge Fast Expand was Esports World Championship ESWC 2011. I was playing in the Grand Finals versus Stefano. We were playing on a map on Metalopolis. I believe it was match point for Stefano, and I was trying to go Forge Expand, and I think I blocked my Nexus with a Forge. Something like that, or with a Pylon or a Forge, like something very, very bad happened. The maps were much worse than they are now. It was much less figured out, of course. Yeah, I remember playing Forge Fast Expand. Also, Wytra was one of the first players to play Forge Fast Expand versus Zerg, like fully walling in. Roaches were like one supply back then, so people were trying to figure out how to beat them. And cannons had a good range, so people started making like cannons behind the fort, so the cannons would attack the roaches trying to break through the walls. I remember some parts of that, yes. And of course the 4 gates in PvP that everybody was doing with either mass zealots, even 5 gates with just one gas, just mass zealots as soon as possible. The guy that got the pylon faster usually won because he got the faster warpent.
Can you describe some of those really early maps, like Zelnaga, Scrap Station?
All right, so we had very small maps. We had Zelnaga Caverns, we had Scrap Station, we had Metalopolis, one of the first few. We had, what was Broken Sands or Blistering Sands? Blistering Sands, something like that, with backdoor rocks. Yeah, they were terrible maps. Oh my God, Scrap Station especially, since you were trying to go Forge Fast Expand versus Zerg, but there was like a different route that you could take. Super easy to drop as well. Yeah, the maps were extremely small and they were not expand friendly back then, definitely not.
Kind of a general maps question. There used to be a time where we had all these different tournaments with all different maps. There was tournament editions, there was ladder editions, there was GSL tournament map pools and MLG map pools. Can you talk about that time? And as far as I remember, the community kind of wanted it to be in line with each other, right? The community kind of pushed it to be ladder maps or tournament maps. But do you remember the time when it was just all over the place, and what were your feelings on it?
Not really. I don't really remember that time, to be honest. I don't remember how even we played. How many maps were there on the ladder? Was it always 7?
It was always 7.
I think it was always 7, right, in the map pool, but not always it was the tournament map pool, right? Yeah, I don't remember that much about it, no, unfortunately. No, I don't think I never get frustrated by the small things. I just want, whatever you just give me mouse and keyboard, I'll just play. I don't care about like the DPI of my mouse or what map I'm playing. I just want to play the game and enjoy it.
That's pure StarCraft right there. What about the replay system? Something that wasn't really, well, certainly wasn't accessible in Brood War because they were so guarded on the replays. What about the burst of replays in StarCraft 2?
I think that also, like the replays in StarCraft 2 definitely helped to develop the skills faster. The easier it is to share the replays, the easier it is to just learn from more people. If you want to copy someone or see how someone reacted to a certain strategy, that was definitely not available, yeah, in StarCraft 1. Even like in the very beginnings of StarCraft 1, there were not even like replays available at all. Like you couldn't even have a replay. It was just not part of the game, which is crazy to me to look at it back in the day. Yeah, it just definitely helped to just grow as a person, and it was. I don't remember, like there were some sites like GoToGamers.net, for example. On the right side, you could see fresh replays of certain players, and then I would try to see some of the players' game styles as well, or I would upload my own replays for people to comment and say, oh my god, MaNa, you were so good because of this, I don't know, river drop in Brood War back in the day, or I don't know, a storm drop in StarCraft 2 was so amazing. So I remember uploading replays just to people notice me, you know, to try to get into the community.
Yeah. So when did you join Team Liquid?
I joined Team Liquid in 2014, in the very early of 2014, because I was in MouseSports since the very beginning of StarCraft 2, 2010, till the end of 2013. I was teamless for like half a year, and then I joined Team Liquid in 2014, like February, something like that, right after IEM Cologne, in which I beat Jaedong. And people always say that this IEM Cologne result definitely made Team Liquid sign you or something like that. But the deal was already done back then. I already knew that I was joining. It was just a matter of getting the announcement done. So yeah, 2014.
That's awesome. Well, we won't quite skip that far yet, but I do want to ask you about Broodlord Infestor, Wings of Liberty. What were you thinking about that?
I hated Broodlord Infestor. One of the worst times of StarCraft, I think. The only can be challenged by the maybe Swarm Host era in Heart of the Swarm, but yeah, Wings of Liberty, it was either destroy the guy before Broodlord Infestor, no matter how behind the guy was, it was always Broodlord Infestor super extremely OP, or the player would like go into the Archon toilet, like how can you even, like how could that even happen? You have one job to just dodge the Archon toilet, so that's the only thing that you really need to take care of. Or yeah, you just kill the guy before that. So yeah, I hated that time, definitely. It was not enjoyable whatsoever. Stefano was at that time like one of the top Zergs, and I remember just creating specific timing attacks just to kill them right before Broodlord Infestor is out. And it was also the era of the Soul Train, the parting Immortal Lin, which was also super extremely strong back in the day, especially if executed at a parting level or like very, very top level player. So yeah, it was also annoying for the Zergs to play against that.
I remember that was, it's like the go-to argument about like balance versus design or like fun, really, which is like PvZ was like technically balanced because it was Immortal Sentinel or Broodlord.
Yeah, like each race had one of the options, right?
Yeah.
The Protoss one has a faster option.
Yeah, exactly. So when Heart of the Swarm released, what did you think about the expansion, like before Swarm Hosts?
Before, so, I mean, it was just another expansion. We had more units. I don't even remember. I think Widowmine was introduced in Heart of the Swarm. What did Protoss get?
Oracle and Tempest.
Oracle and Tempest in Heart of the Swarm.
And Mothership Core.
And the the freaking Mothership Core at times. Yeah, I didn't really think that, but it was just an expansion with more units. The career goes on. I didn't have any specific feelings about Heart of the Swarm, no.
Okay, well, how about when Swarm Host made
Yeah, well, when people were figuring out Swarm Host, it's pretty much the same situation as in Broodlord Infestor. You just have to kill them before they get to the amounts of Swarm Host. There was this famous game versus Firecake, me versus Firecake. It was 3 hours and 53 minutes, something like that. Like extremely long game because of the Swarm Host. There was no more, of course, no more resources out on the map. I remember at that time my brother was visiting me, or maybe we still lived together. Anyway, my brother was like coming into my room, like after 2 hours, he's just laughing at me. He's like, you're still playing this game. It was a very important match because it was like part of the WCS system challenger or whatever that was. And then like 3 hours later, he still comes into it, like you're still playing. He was just laughing at me. I wasn't laughing then though. I remember when I lost that game, I was just like disappointed, frustrated, and tired at the same time. And the next match, just to get out of the group, I had to play versus Blink, which normally, technically, I would be very favored against, and it would be an easy victory for me. But I was just so tired after that series. I lost 2-0, and I was even knocked out in the Challenger League of WCS, which is, at that time for me, was one of the lowest points of possibility for me in career. So I was just extremely tired to just play that game.
And touching on WCS, there was a time where there was certainly an argument to be made that the publisher should have controlled the tournaments because there were so many, MLG, IEMs, Red Bulls, whatever was going on. Did you like the WCS system? Did you think that was a good idea?
For me back then, I was so good that I didn't really care about that system. Like I would just win whatever system you give me. Well, not win, like I didn't win so many WCSs back then, but like I would qualify, I would play in the Premier League. It didn't bother me. The only thing that bothered me was when the Koreans started to travel back to Europe or NA, and then it's like it was WCS Europe, WCS NA. And suddenly you have Koreans in every of these WCSs. I didn't mind the practice with them because they had to live in Europe or NA, and then you would play versus them. That was nice. But yeah, when it comes to like just the tournament itself, I don't think that was a great idea. But overall, I would say like looking back at it, I enjoyed WCS. It was just good to have a proper like system to be part of. Yeah, I never had like a negative feeling about it.
And a part of that is, yeah, the region lock. What did you think about that when it was announced?
So when the Koreans were not able to play, or?
Right, yes.
Okay. I think that was a good time as well for me. Like Koreans were already super dominating back then. That's yeah, like they finally like caught up and they were swarming. Like I remember DreamHack's top 8, top 16. It was like every Korean player that even just decided to play. So I think regional lock was a good idea. I think Europe, especially now looking at it from time's perspective, thrived. Like Europe to this day is a very alive region. We have a lot of great players and you could actually make a living out of it, and that's why we had more players just thriving. NA, I think it just never really caught up. I don't know why. Maybe, I don't know if the expenses of living were too much for them to be capable of just playing the game and then, you know, making a living out of it. I'm not really sure. But I think regional lock was a good idea, at least for Europe. And well, and I guess like China and like Taiwan, like Australia, also the same thing with Australia, the region never really thrived. Despite multiple region locks, they just never caught up, and yeah, it was like a left to dead region basically.
Do you remember the elephant in the room? It's an article.
I remember elephant in the room, but what was it about? Was it about the region lock Koreans, or was it?
No, it was about the Kespa Koreans, Brood War Koreans coming to play StarCraft 2. That they would.
Yeah.
So the article was that basically it's the elephant in the room because the author insinuated that once Brood War players moved to StarCraft 2, they would absolutely dominate. So that StarCraft 2 players weren't as good.
Okay, I remember that time. A bit, a bit. I don't think they dominated that much, if I remember correctly. I know Flash was very good, but he wasn't the same level of dominance that he had in Brood War. I think maybe he won like a couple of tournaments. I don't remember exactly.
2 actually.
Maybe, yeah. I don't remember the exact amount, but like I don't think the Brood Wars really dominated. That like we were just as good as them. Like people were just talking about it. They were just hoping, speculating. I said, well, which is a good thing. But then just reality kicked in.
And what was it like facing some of these Brood War players that you would, you know, probably at least watched at least a little of?
It was really fun. Actually, I really enjoyed that time. One of my very favorite pro gamers, like actual top level Koreans, is Jaedong. I actually started to like. I remembered him a couple of days ago. The times when we met for the first time at like DreamHack, I don't know, it was Stockholm or something. I thought he was gonna be like, you know, the top Korean. Like I don't give a shit about the foreigners and so on. He was the sweetest dude ever. We met a couple of times in tournaments. He was always the first one to say hi, the first one to just chit chat. It was absolutely amazing. I don't remember meeting. I met Flash at Home Story Cup 20, I believe that was. Never really talked to him that much. I never really tried to as well. But yeah, from the very top Koreans, Jaedong is the only one that really comes to mind.
It's my favorite as well.
Good choice.
So Legacy of the Void came out in it was announced in 2015. What did you think about the expansion?
Okay, that was the time, 2015. I remember the trailer announcement. I was actually in the grand finals of the tournament, 2015 Krakow. It was WCS Premier League grand finals. It was a PvP grand finals, and the Protoss expansion was announced. I loved the trailer. That was actually, I mean, one of the best trailers of all time, I think. Really cool. And yeah, once again about the expansion, doesn't really like, I don't really care. It's just more units, more, you know, career goes on. Yeah, and no special feelings about the expansion. Yeah. Other than wait, did the workers start immediately right with the Legacy of the Void? That was the first thing that really like shook up for me, the meta or whatever, but yeah, I never had any hard feelings about that.
Oh, okay. How about some of those early metas like the Adept versus, or the Adept confusing PvPers? No one knew what to do against the Adept for a while there.
Yeah, Adepts, they were able to two-shot Marines, two-shot SCVs. PvP was a nightmare with the Adepts as well. There was the whole meta with Phoenix Adept, both versus Zerg and versus Terran. I think in Protoss versus Protoss, I don't think we played Phoenix Adept. I think Drogo was one of the first Protosses to win DreamHack because of the Adepts. It was in the Grand Finals versus Bly, I think that was.
Yeah.
Greatest finals of all time. Everybody remembers that one. Not really. I don't even remember a single game out of that one. I just remember I dropped out of that tournament very quickly. I don't even remember versus who. That was a terrible time for me. Yeah, I mean, Adepts were annoying. They got patched really, they got patched very quickly though, I think. The plus or minus 1 damage, right? So they don't two-shot SCVs, two-shot Marines then.
Initially, they didn't know what to do with Resident Glaives. First, it was like a shield upgrade, then it was like a health.
It was a shield upgrade?
Yeah, it absolutely was.
I don't remember that whatsoever.
I remember in beta, there was this Supernova, freak, oh my god. Supernova showed us how to defeat one base Adeptalins as Terran players, because he went ghost on one base.
One base
That was
ghost.
Literally how you defeated it. We were like, it's never gonna work.
Such a Chad move.
And then he did it, and we were like, what the hell? Anyway, you said 2016 was a bad year for you, but if I recall correctly, that was the year of your DreamHack run, wasn't it? Or was that 2017?
2017 Austin.
Okay,
Yes,
okay,
2017 Austin was the. Oh, was it 2018 maybe?
Maybe it was 2018.
2018.
Was it Serral's dominating
Yes.
year? Wow, you're right. Wow, I'm way off. Jesus. Okay.
Yeah, 2015 was my grand final versus Lilbo. Potentially, I could qualify to BlizzCon, and then 3 years later, another MaNa appearance out of nowhere. 2018, we have grand finals versus Serral. I beat Neeb 3-0 in the round of 16, Snoot 3-0 in the round of 8, and Special 3-1 in the semifinals. And I lost to Serral in the grand finals 4-2. I was leading 2-1 versus Serral back then, and Serral was already on his way to dominance. He was the expected winner. I was very, very happy, and I didn't think I can win the grand finals, but when I was up 2-1, I actually started to believe that I have a shot at winning the tournament. That felt very, very good. And I remember game number 4 was going very well for me. I think it was on Lost and Found. And I was doing, once again, a double Stargate Phoenix opening. And it was going well for me. I knew that Serral was going to do some roach pressure. I was ready for it. But then eventually, I think I messed up my wall-off in a way that he broke through the wall-off, and Link started to run in for the game. And that's when I lost the grand finals, basically, because Serral won 2-2. Then game number 5 was already a disaster. And then the last one was on Darkness Sanctuary, one of the worst maps of all time, by the way, 4-player maps. Absolutely hated it, and yeah, I just lost on it as well.
That's a good time, man.
That was one of my favorite events, actually. Was it WCS? WCS Austin, right? Or DreamHack Austin?
Yeah, WCS Austin.
Yeah, the crowd was wild. It was very good. NA crowd is actually surprisingly good. I've been to multiple IEMs or Sebits, which was World Championship back in the days in Wings of Liberty or Hardest. I think it was Wings of Liberty. The German crowd back then, basically dead, maybe a couple of claps here and there, terrible. But NA fans, almost every single tournament, once it's full, once there are actually people in there, is very fun. Very, very good people, very enjoyable as a player when you walk out on stage and there are actually cheers, people are chanting your name, and they're cheering on just StarCraft. I think that's a great feeling.
Yeah, I was there in the crowd for that one. It was a good vibe. And then I cast the Leipzig, which was
not it.
Nothing. So the Mothership Core existed in Legacy of the Void, which I always forget, but it did. But then eventually got changed in exchange for the Shield Battery, which we no longer have, but only very
we have Shield Battery, but no overcharge.
Sorry, no overcharge. What did you think about that change? Did you like the Mothership Core? Did you think that it belonged in StarCraft 2?
No, I think Mothership Core was always it was well explained like a band-aid for the problems that Protoss had. Click a button and you immediately defend. Kind of reminds me of Protoss Overcharge, right? Shield Battery Overcharge, but it's far, far different because we also had the different iterations of of the Mothership Core Overcharge. You could cast it on pylons offensively, only on the Nexus, and then the Nexus had a huge range. It was also a very long duration. You could cast 2 of it. Yeah, I never liked the Mothership Core meta. You also had to move with the Mothership Core to recall. You would always have to. I guess that was okay because there was some kind of counterplay, but you would only have it for one part of the army. I think the way that recall works right now is much better, much more skillful. Yeah, I never really liked the unit as a Mothership Core. It never fixed the problems of Protoss imbalance.
What were your opinions when you saw Serral win BlizzCon? Did you expect that to happen? Did you think that was kind of the new age that got ushered in?
I loved it. I am one of the biggest Serral fans. I think he fully deserves the recognition, the skill, the success that he has. He wins no matter what, no matter versus who. I loved it because it was for the first time in a long time that we could see, especially a non-Korean, win versus the Koreans on a very consistent basis. and he started to be even favored versus Koreans. I absolutely love that. Did I expect him to win BlizzCon? Absolutely, 100%. He was my favorite to win. I always cheered him. And the grand finals versus Stats, I think I was a bit worried because Stats was playing out of his mind, but Serral was just playing a little bit better. Sure, the balance was still a bit favored for the Zerg back then, and Stats maybe was blocked by the balance, maybe, but I was still cheering for Serral. It was just amazing to see him transform from, the European Slayer into the actual world champion and slaying everybody. That was great.
And before we kind of continue on in the years, I did want to touch on Net Wars again?
Net Wars, yeah.
Yeah, Net Wars again. How is that as a community? I mean, I remember when they would come up with the banners, there'd be a team of people from Net Wars, right?
So yeah, the Net Wars community, they were just big StarCraft fans since Brood War. And they, of course, moved to StarCraft 2 as well. They're still, basically everybody from Net Wars comes from Brood War. They're just people who never transferred from Brood War to StarCraft 2 and they're still active in just the Brood War scene. The community is still active, not as active as before as the time goes on, but yeah, they were very, very active when it comes to cheering. There were always new topics on the forums when Polish people would play in the tournament. They would always hype it up. For Katowice IEMs, they would always prepare special cheerfuls, big flags, big banners. They would just organize their own travel all together just to make sure that they're together. Just a great community of people who are passionate about the same thing.
And then leading...
Sorry, one more thing actually that I wanted to add about this. It's not only roses and it's beautiful. They would also hate on you if you lost a lot. And there would be people who would just be speaking out of their ass for nothing. I would call them the experts. Now we call them the Twitch chat, right? So I would call them the experts, that they know more about the game than you know. So it wasn't always beautiful, but it was good to see at least the passion from the people.
It's a good way of looking at it. So speaking of Katowice, there was I would say maybe a poorly kept secret, but that's when Clem joined Team Liquid for the first time, was in 2020. What did you think about Clem at that time and the pickup?
I was actually skeptical about Clem, specifically because of my own experience with Clem. Back then, maybe not necessarily at the moment that he was joining Team Liquid, but the period shortly before that, he was one of the players that I would beat no matter what would happen in the game. I would always just win. 20-0, 30-0, doesn't matter, I would just win. So I was like, does he really have that kind of potential? But he was very young and he was motivated to play, motivated to practice. He joined alongside Harstem to Team Liquid, and yeah, we were actually boot camping before IEM Katowice. He was shy, but we immediately picked up the contact and we got along with each other very nicely. 4 years later, as we are right now, we're good friends, and I'm very obviously as he won the World Championship, right? But he's a very good, very sweet kid, and I'm very happy that Team Liquid picked him up. And
then, were you at Katowice 22?
Probably not, no. I don't think so. I actually haven't qualified to Katowice for a very long time. I think the moment that it was announced to be a world championship, I never really qualified to Katowice. And it's one of my biggest regrets in StarCraft 2 to never be able to participate in a tournament in my own home country, to at least just be there as a qualified player. Because also I'm this type of person that if I would go there as a spectator, my heart would just bleed. I cannot go there just to watch. I cannot go there as a fan because I'm just a very competitive person and I would love to be there as a player. And Katowice has always been one of the best tournaments to participate in, from the organization side, from the fans' participation, and just as a player. So it's one of my biggest regrets not to be able to qualify for such a long time.
Yeah, it did get a lot more cutthroat when it became a global championship. But in 23, Oliveira won. What did you think about that? I've heard a lot of different opinions from pro gamers, some being very, very motivated, actually, by that. So what was yours?
True. Yeah, actually, motivated is a very good word to describe that. When I saw his games, it felt that he deserved that world championship. I never was like, it's just a lucky win. Never. No, absolutely not. When I watched these games, he was the better player. against everybody that he played his heart out, and you could see he's getting stronger with each game. It was just a very cool experience, somewhat similar feeling to Serral winning the very first BlizzCon, because it was just a magical first time thing for this guy. So it was the first time BlizzCon win for Serral, and it was the very first time that Oliver won his World Championship, but it was more magical because nobody expected that before the tournament. Nobody would even try to pick Oliver to win the World Championship then. He absolutely deserved it. Great feeling. I even watched a freaking Terran versus Terran, which I never watched because I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. But yeah, TVT with Oliver. Then I even watched the entire series.
It's a tough question, but can you pick one of your fondest memories of StarCraft?
I think my best memory in StarCraft would be 2015 WCS Krakow, where I was playing in the quarterfinals in front of a crowd. I was losing 2-0 to Patreus from Australia, Zerg, and I brought it back 3-2 in a magical fashion, I would say. Just prepared, good tactics, good strategies, all in strategies, let's be real, but I brought it back 3-2. And then when I came out to the stage, the crowd was roaring, and they came out on the stage. I was doing like this gesture just to, so they get louder. I do this. I suddenly see like 10, 15 people jump on the stage. They go all around me, and they pick me up, and they start throwing me up in the air. And that was one of the best memories I had. The only thing that I was thinking about that is because I had my phone and my wallet in my pockets. I was like, please don't fall out or something. But yeah, nothing happened. Yeah, it was just throwing me up in the air. That was one of the best memories. It was the beginning of my best event, because yeah, the 2015 Krakow and Austin 2018, when I got to the Grand Finals of Serral, were my two favorite events. Even though I won Esports World Championship in 2012 versus Stefano, I won like the entire thing. I still think the 2015 and 2018 events, I just found them better.
A couple of fan questions here. So, for someone late to learning about StarCraft, so they might have come in the last couple of years, what's the first thing you'd want me to know about the history of the game?
I think the first thing that I would like you to know about StarCraft is that kind of created esports, and especially modern esports, Twitch. In 2010, Twitch was created because of StarCraft. People needed like a streaming service. It was just in TV back then, and because StarCraft was so popular, they figured out that they can make just a gaming streaming platform, and StarCraft was one of the first. It was the first game that got so much popularity, and it was the most popular esports back in 2010, 2011.
And the second one is, how does the early days of StarCraft with like an MLG weekend event, or even the Playham dailies, compare to the ESL run events of now?
I remember the early days tournaments, they were very tough because you would just keep playing and keep playing and keep playing. And you would have to have a lot of stamina to keep playing. Nowadays, it's mostly like 1 or 2 matches, maybe, most 2 matches, unless you're playing the offline event DreamHack. When we play online, I don't necessarily like the current format where we play like 1 match and then there's like a 2-day break and then we play 1 more match. I'd much rather play either like 2 or 3 matches at the same time, just because it's just the amount of stress that you have preparing for these tournaments is just too much for me nowadays. Even though I've been competing for such a long time, I still get nervous in tournaments. So yeah, it's just that difference, I suppose.
My last 2 questions. One, what do you think is StarCraft's legacy to video games and esports?
What is this? What is, again?
Its legacy.
Its legacy? How do I understand this question?
Well, yeah, you kind of went over at least one popular answer, but people have said like, well, its legacy is that it was the first televised esport, or that it ushered in the age of esports as we know it, that it created Twitch.tv, that it has its fingers everywhere. You can have the NASL sound guy meme.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think for me, the StarCraft 2 legacy, it has to be just esports. Because it comes from Brood War, where esports was extremely popular in South Korea, and it made esports global, I think. Once again, thanks to Twitch and the popularity of the game, I would say it had the biggest impact of growing esports on a level that is becoming like mainstream. It was slowly getting there. Nowadays, esports is more mainstream than ever before, but StarCraft made that ground, I think. I would say that's the biggest legacy.
And last question is, what does StarCraft mean to you?
StarCraft 2 for me The funny thing is, I don't even consider it like a game. It's just a way of living for me. I learned so much thanks to StarCraft 2. I traveled all around the world. I met numerous people that I would never meet. I learned the language. I just visited the places I would never probably visit. I learned how to take losses, fails, basically, because you can't improve if you just if you keep failing, but you gotta keep getting up. And that's what StarCraft really taught me. It's just a way of living for me. I love StarCraft, and I will always be grateful to what StarCraft made me, who I am right now.